Hey, you listen to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 18.0. This is Grady Hooker and live on Skype. So we're going to talk about NXT TakeOver. So we're sort of taking an NXT theme here for this week's episode. And then after all of the NXT stuff, we're going to be talking a little bit about Night of Champions. So did you see the NXT special on the WWE Network?
Yes.
Well, so we opened up and we had an NXT Tag Team Championship match. And it was the Lucha Dragons taking on the Ascension.
This was a pretty good match to open up the show with. I felt it was beyond time for the Ascension to drop the titles. And I think Kalisto and Sin Cara are as good of a team as any that they could have put together to bring the end of the Ascension's reign.
Yeah, the Ascension has definitely been very dominant down in NXT, which I think is a problem. They built them up so big that it would look really bad when they took a loss. But
I think I like how they built up the Sin Cara and Kalisto through that tournament of having to beat the other teams to get to Connor and Victor.
It definitely made more sense than NXT TakeOver 1, where we had Kalisto and El Local for no reason taking on the Ascension. They got to earn their way up. They were definitely the best tag team. They beat everyone else. It makes sense.
Yep.
So
it'd just be interesting to see when Victor and Connor move on from NXT and come to the main roster.
True. Something that happened later on in the night, might as well talk about it. Kenta came out. He's now called Hideo Itami, but I'll forever refer to him as Kenta. And the Ascension tried to attack him.
And they got their butts handed to them by one man.
Yeah.
If they were, you couldn't have gotten a bigger debut for Kenta than you got from there.
Yeah. I think this definitely means that the Ascension, they'll probably have a rematch with the Lucha Dragons, maybe move on to Kenta, but I think the Kenta feud may be their last in NXT.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that they're also wanting to use Connor and Victor as a way to get Kenta a bit more established to the WWE style wrestling, which is completely different than the Japanese style that he's used to wrestling.
They were really hyping Kenta when William Regal introduced him like a household name. I'm wondering how much percentage of the wrestling community knew about Kenta before he debuted.
I would say a good 80-95% of the internet wrestling community does.
True.
In large part because of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan stealing his finishers.
Yeah. So he's got to have a whole new moveset?
Either that, or they have to acknowledge that he invented the moves before he uses them. Especially the go to sleep, because he is the innovator of the go to sleep move.
So,
but I am interested in finding out what his moveset is going to be.
Yeah. He could either bring those moves back, but I guess there's a lot of tension between WWE and Punk right now, and they might not want to sort of bring that up with the go to sleep.
Possible, but it's also possible that since Kenta was such a big influence on Punk, that he may not have a problem with him using the move.
True.
Because in his DVD he did mention that he honored Kenta so much that he chose to keep the move's name the same when he went to use it.
Yeah.
So
we don't know. We'll find out, I guess, because since he's having his feud with the Ascension, I'm guessing he's going to be in the ring pretty fast.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really pretty much what as it was said. If you're in this business and you want to make it in this business, you want to go to NXT.
Yes. We're definitely seeing, especially with these flashes of NXT on the main roster, on Raw and stuff, we're definitely seeing these flashes of NXT coming up. People are going to start seeing more of it. And hopefully the casual wrestling fan will start wanting to see NXT.
Or at least get them more exposure to the main roster fans.
Yeah.
Because they were pretty quiet until the big moves started hitting in the match on Raw with the NXT stars.
Yeah.
So, because and a large part is because nobody knew who they were in that stadium, except for Sami Zayn, who everybody knows is El Generico.
Yeah, so they'll just chant Olay over and over and over.
Yeah.
So we also got, I'm going to call it a debut, even if it's technically not a debut, of Baron Corbin.
Well, it was billed as one, so
yeah,
go with it.
Even if he jobbed a while, it's still technically his debut against CJ Parker, squashing him in what I think was 30 seconds.
Yeah, the second they announced CJ Parker was going to have a match, I said it didn't matter who he's going to face, that person was going to get a win.
Pretty much.
I've said it from day one, from the very first time I ever laid eyes on CJ Parker, even before he went through his hippy-dippy makeover, that he was a jobber. He's always going to be a jobber, and that he's never going to be anything more than that.
Yeah.
And I've been proven right.
You definitely have. I like the gimmick, but I don't think he's ever gonna. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that either. That's the thing.
Yeah, and it's just him. It's just him. He just gives off an air of a loser, and it's just nothing they can fix.
They'll try. They'll probably try a few times to fix it before they give up. So now we'll jump into our classic. It's classic. It's like 2 years ago. That counts. NXT back when it was a, what would you call it? I wouldn't call it a reality show. Some contesty type thing.
Yeah, it was categorized as a reality show.
Okay, season 1 of that, where you got your Barretts and your Rybacks and your Bryans.
Yeah, it's the theme that lasted until they changed over to the new style setting.
And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. So the next match on NXT TakeOver 2 was a hair versus hair match. It was Enzo Amore versus Sylvester Lafort.
If a rival was all about Neville, and TakeOver was about Charlotte, this show was definitely about Enzo Amore and Big Cass.
Yep.
But that's not really a bad thing, because you're getting them hyped up over these characters.
I think if they were bad guys, they'd be challenging for that title right now.
No, I guess now with new champion.
With the Luchas.
Yeah, although they did face off against the new champions once before.
True.
So it's just I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a good back and forth match, and you really got to see why Enzo Amore is so popular with the crowd.
Mm.
He does have the gift of gab, that's for sure. He can't spell worth a dickens, but he has the gift of gab. I'm still trying to figure out how they come up with soft being the way they spell it.
Soft.
SAWFT. Soft.
It's said with a Jersey accent. So it's like you're a bit of a soft.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be Jersey characters.
Either way, it was
it was a good back and forth match.
Yeah, and it was pretty obvious Amore was never going to lose.
No. But it was but I did enjoy the match, and the antics that occurred after the match and throughout the rest of the show, I think really put them over as well.
Yeah. Sylvester Lafort ended up losing, but he kind of ran away, so Marcus Louis got the bucket dumped on his head that magically makes his hair fall out.
Yeah. and then he was left with
Patches.
just 5 patches of hair at the end of the show.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't a good haircut.
And I think the best part was actually the interview they did after the show for the post show Fallout. I felt that was a really strong interview, and I really enjoyed. I just enjoyed everything that Big Cass and Enzo did in the show.
I think if you're going to bring them up to the main roster, you kind of have to bring them up together.
Yeah. Colin Cassidy definitely has that size advantage that you want for a wrestler. Not sold on his mic skills, but 90% of the current main roster, you're never going to be sold on those skills.
True. That's why he has Enzo by his side.
Yeah. Enzo, I could see being a manager. If being a wrestler doesn't work out, I can see him being a manager.
True.
Real easily. But it depends on where they want to go with them. But I think this was definitely their show. Okay. Even though it was supposed to be about the Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah. Some people are actually naming the show NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. I don't know what the official naming of it was.
That was the official name.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to call it 2. I'm going to WrestleMania number this stuff. So next we had Bull Dempsey squashing Mojo Rawley.
I wept a little inside during this match, but I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It just... I don't know. I guess they soured on Mojo. I don't know. I don't know what has happened. Because at Rival, he looked like he was going to be shot out of a cannon for NXT. But he seemed to be shot out of a cannon into a brick wall.
I don't know. Maybe they haven't soured on Mojo. They've just gotten higher on other people like Bull and Baron Corbin and stuff.
It's possible. It's just that the way they booked him, I think they have soured him a little bit. Maybe not as much as I fear that they have. But I do wish that he had the chance to speak with the Warrior before the Warrior unfortunately passed away, because that would have been huge for his character. Yeah.
So we'll move on to the NXT Women's Championship. Charlotte retained her title against Bayley.
I'm all right with the decision because I kind of saw it coming, because my prediction was Bayley was going to win the match, but not the championship. Because I knew where they were going, and it was pretty obvious.
Sasha
versus Charlotte. So I knew that was coming. So I figured Bayley would probably win by a disqualification or a count out of some kind that would allow her to get the win, but not the championship.
And instead, they just had a really good, hard-fought match.
Yeah. And I think Bayley won over a lot of people with that match.
Yes.
Besides being the bubbly, lovable character that she is.
She'll always be that.
Yeah. And how can you hate her? She has wacky, wavy, inflatable arm tubes, man.
I know. I danced to those when they popped up.
I always do the this is Al Harrington's thing. Whenever I see one. Ooh, wacky, wavy, inflatable arm tube Emporium.
So Charlotte turned face at the end, or what?
Yeah, I think it is. That's so they can do Sasha Banks versus Charlotte.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely a face turn for her.
Okay. So main event, fatal 4-way match for the NXT Championship. Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze, Tyson Kidd. All over the place.
It was a great match, but I still think the Women's Championship was a better match overall. And I think we might have seen a little bit of a hint of a possible heel turn in our retaining champion.
Definitely a Neville Zayn thing there.
Yeah. We definitely just got to eliminate the rest of Tyson Kidd from the rest of this feud, though.
I think Tyson Kidd's going to leave quite easily.
Yeah. Probably by force the way that Bo Dallas was kicked out of NXT.
I have seen. I think you're trying to predict something. I have seen on your draft roster that you're picking up Tyson Kidd.
Well, I'm taking a chance. Because I think Tyson Kidd's days in NXT are numbered, and I think they'll bring him up. Whether they use him or not is another story all of itself, but it's definitely a shot in the dark. It can't hurt me any more than keeping Xavier Woods on the roster.
Well, no, we might actually eventually get that Nation of Domination.
We might, but even with that situation, it looked like I'd get 1 point.
Yeah.
But with Tyson Kidd, I would at least have a chance of getting 2.
True. So that's all of NXT TakeOver 2/Fatal 4-Way. So we'll jump into our current entrance theme. It's NXT's current song, so Roar of the Crowd. And when we come back after the song, we'll run down the Night of Champions card. And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, Grady Josh. So, Night of Champions. What do we think? Do we think there's going to be a pre-show match at all?
I've been predicting for weeks now that the pre-show match would be Bunny and Rose versus Gator Slater.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about matches that aren't on the card already announced, and people think will happen.
I mean, there's been rumors of Jack Swagger and Bo Dallas having a match.
I've also seen ones.
But then they just had it on Raw.
Yeah, I also saw ones of Big Show Bray Wyatt, but we also had that.
Well, they kind of started a feud with that one.
True. I've also heard.
Have a clean finish.
I've also heard things with NXT Championship to promote NXT to the network subscribers.
Yeah, that'd be kind of hard to do with them doing their tapings.
Yeah.
Already. It would be another thing if they were going to do the taping, say, Monday or Tuesday. But with them doing 4 weeks of taping already, it'd be kind of hard to do.
Yeah, you'd know the champion would retain.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what's going to happen on the pre-show. If it was Adam Rose and the Bunny.
All I know is it's going to be an hour long, and apparently the Peep Show is returning with Chris Jericho.
Okay, we'll find out something.
And his special guest is going to be Chris Jericho.
Okay. Sounds interesting. But for the tag team match, if it is Adam Rose and the Bunny, I'm guessing you're leaning that way?
Yeah, I would go with Adam Rose and the Bunny.
Yeah, I think everyone would.
I need the points.
I'll draft the Bunny, and we'll see what happens. I get whoever's under it. So we got first match on the card: Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins.
Wow! Now this match is pretty much pointless.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to do the old bait and switch with this match.
I think so.
That's almost what they have to do because they gave us the match for free on Raw.
Yeah.
And it was a good match. It was a good match. But Reigns won the match cleanly.
Yeah.
There's no point in doing the rematch at Night of Champions unless there's something screwy going on here.
There's something screwy. My bet would be Seth and Kane.
Roman Reigns is going to be replaced in this match.
So you're going to head into the Dean Ambrose territory?
I'm hinting at the Dean Ambrose territory.
Yeah.
That somebody has finally found wherever Dean Ambrose wandered off to after he refused his medical attention, and he's going to come back and he's going to face and beat Seth Rollins.
Okay then. Next match, Chris Jericho, Randy Orton.
Randy Orton.
Simple as that. Chris Jericho's on his way out.
Technically Jericho is supposed to be performing with Fozzy that night.
His match will be the first match. He'll rush that and then run over to the other stadium.
Unless the Peep Show is going to be used to replace Jericho in this match.
That could work as well. Peep Show could even be pre-taped. They could be screwing us all.
Yeah. And it could be the return of Christian for your team.
Yes.
Which then would give you a rather interesting decision to make.
No, it's an easy decision.
Well, yeah, technically, because he would be replacing the same person. That was actually a brilliant move on your part.
Oh, it was a genius.
Injury replacement.
I'm just that genius. So next we got Mark Henry Rusev.
I'm going with Rusev. I think it's still a little bit too early for Rusev to have his first loss, even though it would be against Henry, who is very credible in his own right. I just think it's a little bit soon for it.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal against Mark.
No.
Mark is a former world champion, and it would do wonders for Rusev to win this match.
Yeah.
Henry, he's on the downslope of his career. He's basically just biding his time until his contract runs out.
I'm going with Rusev. I'm still going with the feud that I said, he beats Henry, then he beats Show, then Show Henry happens. That's still in my head. I don't care what's happening with Bray. It's going to happen. So we've got Tag Team Championship match as well. The Usos versus Gold and Stardust.
I'm going with the Usos.
Damn.
It's not that I think it's beyond time for them to lose the championship. The problem is, I don't believe that Gold and Stardust are the team that should do it.
No.
I also think that this could be where the predictable explosion between the two in Goldust and Stardust occurs.
But Stars implode. Oh, that was a horrible pun.
They also explode too.
Okay.
Supernovas.
True. But yeah, I think the Usos are going to drop the titles soon. I don't think here though.
Yeah, they may change things up, because I didn't think The Miz was going to lose the title to Dolph Ziggler.
True.
At SummerSlam. And he did.
So talking to Ziggler, that's another rematch, Ziggler Miz.
Yep.
Or it could be R Ziggler and Damian Mizdow, who knows?
I'm kind of expecting maybe a title change here, but not The Miz winning the championship.
I think you've said it before, the Damian Sandow way.
Yeah, Damian Mizdow wins the championship.
Yeah. And then runs off.
And then runs off, doesn't give the championship to Miz and turns face in the process.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm happy with that. Triple threat match for the Divas title. Paige, AJ, Nikki.
I hate saying this, but I think Nikki Bella's going to win the championship.
Okay, so we're just going to ignore you for the rest of the show. Paige wins, retains. Let's move on.
That's what I want to see happen.
Yes.
But I think they're almost going to CM Punk Paige here.
No.
And I'm talking about where he ended up losing the title without actually losing the title.
I don't like this.
The World Heavyweight Championship match.
Hmm.
So, it's interesting. I mean, this has been a pretty boring feud for the most part. But I'm scared to death because I don't want to see the Bellas in that situation. But I think we're going to.
Yep. US title, Sheamus Cesaro, who's going to win?
Cesaro.
Sounds good. Main event, Brock Lesnar, John Cena. The pause is worrying.
I'm trying to decide scenarios here.
Just pick Lesnar and move on.
I'm going Cena by disqualification.
That works as well. Who will have the title when they walk out of the show?
Lesnar.
Yeah.
I don't think Seth Rollins will cash in yet.
No, I don't. Especially not if he's doing your other thing and getting beaten up by Ambrose. Okay, so that is Night of Champions. Next week we'll talk about what actually happened, and it will line up perfectly because we're that good at picking stuff. So it's been great talking to you, Josh. So I've actually got a quick announcement before we close off the show. I've been teasing it on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. So Armageddon Expo here in New Zealand, up in Auckland, is bringing in Hacksaw Jim Duggan as a special guest for the wrestling. He's going to be wrestling on Sunday. And I have been granted a media pass by Armageddon Expo, so I'm going to get to go up to Auckland and have a sit-down interview with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which will hopefully air on the show the week after. So that's going to be great. Hopefully that all works out nicely. So that's about all the time we got for this show. You can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling Radio, or our website, wrestlingroundup.host22.com, wrestlingroundup.host22.com, and I'll see you next week.